All right, Harmony Speciale was on just a moment ago in Utica talking about an issue on Noise Street. I guess you didn't realize you've been away for so long. You're just going to be hammered with all these issues here this morning coming in. Harmony, let me take you now before we break. Good morning.
Okay.
And
Good morning.
Your issue on Noise Street, you're seeing a lot of violence, and is your fear nothing's being done about it?
Well, this has been going on for a very long time. It seems to be getting a lot worse very fast. I live here on Noise Street. I have my family business on the corner of Noise and Sunset. I'm sorry, Noise and Lincoln. I live closer to Noise and Sunset.
Okay.
And there's been issues that have been happening just this past week alone. There was the whole squad command. There was a whole squad from the UPD and the squad commander and the deputy chief on the scene, witnessing all of the things that are going on. Hopefully we can get some more police presence here. But there's been physical altercations with weapons involved. There's been mobs of people loitering at properties, drug and alcohol use, and abuse on the public property. There's been criminal threatening, obstruction of traffic in common areas, children that are unsupervised, vehicles and other property being damaged, loud music and parties, neighbors fearful of retaliation and retribution, and our overall community-wide quality of life and our well-being is being deteriorated and threatened on and around Noise Street primarily. I'm sure there's other areas that people are experiencing the same thing.
All right.
And, the thing is, we've been dealing with this. We've had police on call, just umpteen times, on a daily basis. And it seems like there's not much being done, whether their police hands are tied because there's a lot of adolescents involved, but there's also adults involved. There's also drugs and children involved.
What do
we need some more.
All right. What do you say? And Steve, you're kind of removed from this situation now.
I am.
Completely.
Not working there anymore. It's difficult to comment at all about it. I just suggest you reach out to the police department and let them do what they've got to do to be able to try to resolve the issue. These neighborhood problems are not easy sometimes, and you're right. It's a lot of times you're dealing with children, and it doesn't rise to the level of crime that you can charge children. You can't charge kids with violations in New York State. So, if they're being disorderly and screaming and yelling, the law doesn't allow you to charge them. You only can charge them with crimes. So, through family court. So, the police do have their hands tied in these sort of nuisance calls sometimes, and it can be tough for the neighborhood because they can do the same things that adults do to bother you, but unfortunately the law doesn't allow you to charge them.
Right, but it's not just, it's primarily the adults that this issue is coming from, and the people that are living here, the residents here. A lot of the properties here are housing visions, so I'm trying to work with housing visions and the police department and some other community groups, the churches, the Black community churches, to help the issue. I made a post on my Facebook page, and there was one person who put a very foolish post, which was racist, and, I addressed it. And I see, now that I'm listening to you guys talk about the issue in Tulsa and other issues that are going on within the, the people that are, Black community advocates, I think there's a lot of, things that are coming to light through this happening here, with hypersensitivity and, being careful of, not to turn it into something else rather than what it is.
Escalated into something else, yeah.
It's a nuisance issue.
Yeah.
It's a safety issue, and that's what my focus is. Unfortunately, from my experience with, what I'm seeing with my own eyes, what my family and my neighbors are experiencing, it's coming from the Black community here and on Noise Street and around Noise Street. So I've worked with the Black community. I do on a regular basis, just like you said, Bill, about this female officer with the Tulsa issue.
Yeah.
I'm very active with the Black community. So, but now I'm getting some backlash, saying that this is a racist thing, but it's not. And I think that more attention needs to be put on this, because if it is coming from the Black community here and our experience of what we're dealing with here in West Utica, we need to address that too, so it doesn't turn it, so we can help one another, present ourselves in a healthier fashion. And
well, maybe you should start a community group, a Noise Street community group.
I believe Harmony does have a few of them.
We do.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why I'm calling today. My main point in calling today and bringing some light to this issue is because what we've done so far, just working with the police, isn't working.
Okay.
We've had nuisance abatement going on some of the properties, and it still hasn't been rectified. We have people that have been long evicted, and they're still in these properties.
Yeah.
So we need to try to work together to help clean this up. We don't need to come against each other and turn this into a racist thing.
Work together.
We do have to recognize that this is coming from the black community here, at least.
Okay.
So,
right.
What do we do to do this? And I want to, make a call for action on people who want to get involved. They can come and they can private message me, or they can post on my page and talk about what we can do to help rectify the situation. And I just encourage it. And
I want to just the Facebook page is what? Harmony Speciale?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just my personal Facebook page.
All right. Well, we wish you the best over there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck,
I do miss Christine, who used to refer to that as Noye Street.
Or No Yes Street.
No Yes Street. No, Christine would always do the Spanish pronunciation. Noye Street. I miss that. Anyway, there's really no answer you can give to that, and you're out of all this now.
I'm out of it.
But having you here to give your perspective from a police standpoint, I think is important for all of us. It's easy to watch a video and to become enraged, and boy, you taught us one thing a long time ago by showing us a video that clearly, when you saw another angle, was a completely different thing that happened.
Right, and that was 20 years old, that video.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say to you, you talked about Kaepernick, I can't say to you in the strongest of terms how I disagree with the way he's doing it.
Yeah.
The one thing he did say, which he was half right, he talked about law enforcement training. What he said was that you have to be a cosmetologist. You get more training in cosmetologist than a police officer, which is absolutely not true.
We've talked, though, that there is a training issue throughout the country.
But here's part of the problem that a lot of people don't quite get. There is a disparity between training, and we've seen that many of the northern states have more training and I dare say better training than maybe some of the southern states.
Yeah.
But part of the problem is, and we saw this in Utica a few years ago, is every time when it comes to the budget year, the police department puts in a request for X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of training. Mm-hmm. And, obviously you have a wish list, but New York State mandates you get training in firearms and vehicle operation and CPR, all the things that are mandated, domestic violence, that are mandated by the state. You have to do that no matter what. And what happens is they come through for budgetary reasons, and I get it. You got to be able to run a city. They come through, and they just one of the first things that goes is training. Yeah. Oh, this is a luxury. Don't need this.
The worst thing that should be eliminated.
And that was always the chief would always advocate for it. He'd say, listen, in the long run, it's going to cut down on lawsuits.
Yeah.
You're going to have less injured officers. You're going to have less injured people. In the long run, you're going to save money by doing the training versus not doing it. And I think you probably see that across the country. Mm-hmm. They look at this and say that's a luxury. It's not a luxury. It's mandatory. You need to have training, and you need to have these live scenarios. We have you've been to some of the things that I've done over the years where you do this simulated training.
Sure.
Well, how many times have we done it, and how many times I think Andrew did a pretty good job last time, but you still shot it in his. Remember the guy that was walking towards you? He was just walking towards you, and you shot him and killed him.
Yeah.
Why? Because, now obviously you don't have the training.
Andrew's trigger finger, though.
Well, he's spray and pray. Yeah, we'll ask questions later.
Very
but
bad.
The thing is that if you don't have the training, if you don't have the training, how are you supposed to? And obviously you can't put yourself in live shoot scenarios, so you've got to do it simulated.
The last thing we should be cutting is the training.
Right, but after the fact, they want to say, we've got to do something,
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've told you can do something. We tell you every single year at budget time you can do something. You choose not to do it for the money.
Yeah.
So just don't point fingers afterwards. You've got to take some responsibility yourself. I say this to the politicians out there. You've got to take some responsibility yourself. If the officers aren't doing the job that they're supposed to do, because training is a huge part of law enforcement. Huge part of it.
Lieutenant Steve Hauk. I'll still go with Lieutenant. Always great to have your perspective. We really appreciate it.